Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Soul Man and Friends Surgery here on Friday, the 19th of March. If you are watching live, please do. You'll see a little notification popping up in the bottom of your screen there. Turn live notifications on. Why would you not want to switch on so that you're notified every single time we're live? This morning we have got the very amazing, inspirational Linda Watson. Is that her name? No. Hold on a wee minute. I can't remember her name. Susan. Yeah, that's her name. Susan Watson. And she's coming on to speak all about all things stress related. I can see her backstage going. So welcome, Susan. Good morning, Susan.
Hello.
How are you?
All right, I'm good, thank you. Nice sunny day. Changed my seat today so I don't get the sun in my eyes. And I can also show off all my lovely colour stuff behind me.
I never even noticed. How bad is that?
The other seat, the sun comes in first thing and it just goes right across my face. So I thought I'd sit on the other side of my office today.
Oh. So, Susan, this morning we are talking about stress and all things related to stress and all of that stuff. There's been a bit of a theme this week now that we're actually speaking less about stress and more about less about stress of being locked down and more about the stress of moving back into society. Yeah. And actually, I'm sure that you've had lots of messages this week about it, have you?
Not really. I could lie and say I have. But really,
I thought you were going to say, yeah.
I'm not going to lie, right? I haven't had a lot of messages about it. I have had a few messages which could be relating to it, but nobody's actually said it because it's all about the ages of kids about 11 and 12. I've had quite a few messages about young people and coming to see me for anxiety and stress. So without directly saying that it's linked to school, there could be a link there.
So interestingly, would you say that this week, with the announcement of everything going back to what is very close to normal, actually, would you say that there's a lot of people feeling high amounts of anxiety? Because I certainly am, if I'm really honest. I'm feeling really, really anxious about it.
Do you know what, though? I can see the potentially people feeling that way, right? But sitting as the work I do, I haven't got any evidence of that. And I'm being honest, I haven't. So I haven't got any evidence of people feeling that way. I think there's probably mixed feelings. People are really excited to get back to normal and getting hugs for their family and being able to do things. And there's the element of being told to keep away for a year and having to go back to workplaces in the near future and stuff like that. Yeah, it will bring up lots of stress and anxiety. But I actually think it's a really good thing.
Yeah. Again, when you're going back into society as well, we've got all these things that we've practiced over the last 4 months, where, wet noodling, really just engaging that parasympathetic nervous system. So would that be your advice to people, to use all these tools that we've been learning over the last 4 months?
Stephen, it wouldn't be. I would actually come on here and say to people, see all these tools I share with you, all the tools that I continually say that help you, just didn't do them. Waste of time. Of course, I'm not going to say that. Of course, I tell folk to use them. What I will say to people is I continually share things. I continually say, this will help you, but you have to keep doing them. Now, without a lie, and I bet most people who are listening will agree with this, even people who come to see me in a one-to-one feel better when they're using them. But then when they feel better, they stop using them.
Mm-hmm.
So then further down the line, they start to feel a bit rubbish again because they're not continually looking after their well-being. So my message to people is you have all these tools. If you want to get the benefit, you have to use them. Have to use them. And not just once. You introduce them into a way of life so that you're always feeling good. Most people say, I love your tools, Susan, but I keep forgetting to use them. Well, you've got to use them to feel good.
Absolutely.
See, I must be in a brutal mood this morning. I'm like, use my tools.
That whole wet noodle that we spoke about, or that we have been speaking about, that is something that you need to use many, 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 many times a day for it to really be effective, isn't it?
Yeah. It just becomes automatic. And eventually you just stop thinking about it and just do it. I know I've used it a lot this week because I've not been feeling very great this week. And I was having problems sleeping and things like that. So what I've been doing is I've been wet noodling and doing body scans and colours and God knows what else this week to try and make myself feel a bit more all right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just so if anybody thinks I'm suffering at the moment with stress and anxiety, I'm not. It was just I had a fall, so I was having problems sleeping. But so it really helped, it did. So I became an expert wet noodler again this week.
Brilliant. I do have a question for you, and I know that you know I've got a question for you. So I'm going to ask the question, and we're going to get this question out before we start talking because I will forget.
Okay.
This is a question that someone had sent to the Facebook page and asked for a little bit of advice.
Okay.
So they said, how do you manage stress when you have been brought up by a narcissistic mother, in surgical menopause due to PMDD, and still managing all of that on top of ending an emotionally manipulative marriage, and now having a daughter who's moved out because she thinks I'm toxic? I'm really struggling to see the good in life right now.
Right. This is a simplified version, right? Because everybody's different to a certain degree, and yet everybody's the same to a certain degree, if that makes sense to you. Our experiences may all be different, but we're biologically the same with our nervous systems. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Best thing I would say there is
So I cannot hear you, Susan.
well, I disappeared, Stephen. I disappeared. I don't know if it was me or you, but we went. Right, anyway, I'm back. So what I'm going to say is, number one is learning self-regulation. And that is how to regulate your own nervous system to stop going into that toxic stress, anxiety, anger, hurt, pain.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you can learn to do that, you've taken an element of control back over your emotions and feelings. There's also what's called neuroception, and what that is building up an awareness of how you feel. Because we can learn all these things, how to manage our nervous system, but you've got to have that an awareness of what your body's feeling like, what your thoughts are like, how you're actually feeling at any time, so that you know that you can pull yourself back out of that. So that's self-management, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's responsible steps to take. What you're talking about there is about all the experiences as well that you've had in life. Mm-hmm. Now, this is where I might sound a bit brutal, and I don't mean to, right? The bottom line is, the past is the past. You can't change the past. There's nothing that I can do, that you can do, that anyone can do to change your past. But what you can do is you can change the emotional connections to the past, so that when you think or old memories come up, they don't bring up that emotional reaction and feelings and thoughts. So you can actually get help, and that would be more therapeutic help to do that, to let go of that. But an element of your own mindset as well, that if you've had a challenging childhood and a difficult marriage and things like that, it's probably highly likely that you've not got a very high sense of self-worth and self-value and self-esteem. So you might need some help to increase that, or you can start doing your own work, looking up things, how to build up your own self-worth, your own confidence, your own self-esteem. But I would also say, I call it drawing a line. And that's what I did with my life. Just imagine a line. This is my past. This is my future. All right, the past is shit. This is how it made me feel. Maybe it made me feel broken, worthless. But you have a choice with that line. I always come back to the choice point, don't I? You've always got that choice. Is because you cannot change the past, but you have a choice where you can go into the future and leave the past in the past and start working on things and making the changes so you've got a brighter, happier, nicer future. Or you can bring all that pain and that past with you into your future. So that's going to be shit too, basically, right? So I would say self-regulation, being aware of your emotions and doing exercises to help them. But if you feel really traumatized and you feel low confidence and self-esteem, then I'd be thinking about, and if you believe you need a helping hand with that, then I'd be looking for somebody with therapeutic skills to help you move on from that. Because the bottom line is nobody needs to live with that. But there's an element of accepting that all these things that happen in your past don't have to impact your future. And they genuinely don't. But it takes action to move on through that, and acceptance that that is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Or because if that wasn't the case, everyone that had terrible childhoods, terrible traumas in their life, terrible control and violent marriages, all these sort of things, if it wasn't true that you couldn't move on from that, everybody who'd had these kind of experiences would be living lives of hell going forward. And yet there's many people I could speak to who've had, listening to their stories, the most traumatic, frightening lives actually, who are now the most inspirational people that stand up and say to you, this is my story, but I'm sharing this because there's hope. I'm a very happy, balanced person. You don't have to bring it with you. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think the message that I really want to get out is what you have in your past, you don't need to bring into your future. Sometimes you need a helping hand. Sometimes you don't. But it is possible to leave it behind and move on to that happier family. And I'm not making out it's easy here. Don't get me wrong. I'm not just saying you just go, whoosh, and that's it going. It takes effort. It does take effort. But every time you make that little bit of effort, you're moving on to that life, actually your best life, the life you deserve.
It's interesting because we spoke about this in quite a bit of detail on Wednesday with Nicola, and we were speaking about, you know, how you choose your reality. You know, you can. It's pretty much a choice whether you are a victim to that or whether you decide to move past that and make.
Do you know what, with Stephen? That I'm not wanting to simplify it down to that, right? Because if I was to say that, right, I hear some hellish stories, and I mean, I really have in the work that I've done. I've heard some things that you just think. If I was to say to somebody that, I mean, just to say simply, you can just choose to leave that behind you and walk on. There's processing. What happens is when you have trauma, it gets stuck in a certain part of your brain. It doesn't close off. And it's the emotions that come back with that, like you've got shame, you've got pain, you've got hurt, you've got anger. So depending, if your body's reacting to the trauma and that is stuck and not closed off, it's called the trauma cycle, and you're stuck in there. So you're almost like reliving the trauma all the time. You sometimes need a wee helping hand to close that off. And then I would say at that point you have the choice to accept that that is the past, then move on. And you do, there is choices, but I'm just wary. I don't want to make it sound like it's just, do you know what, I click my fingers and you've got a choice, so bloody get on with it. That's not how I want to come across. It took me a lot. It took me quite a few years because I was myself. And I think I've said this, just stuck in why me? Why did that happen to me? Why do people treat me this way? Oh, this, that. And I had a big list of things, that all stuff that has happened to me. And then it was just one day I thought, you know what? I'm stuck going round and round in thoughts and what ifs. And that's when I knew that things had to change. It's like a washing machine. Been stuck in a cycle. It's not good.
I was exactly the same as well, though. You know, I had that whole victim mentality of all the things that had happened over the last 5 or 6 years. And what's really interesting is that it took me a long time to heal from it. But I never really truly started the healing process until I admitted that, you know, it was me that was the problems. And I know that sounds really bad, right?
No, it doesn't actually, because I'll tell you something. At that moment when I was talking about drawing my line, right, this is true, I was thinking about stuff that had happened in my childhood, right, just things that had happened in my childhood. And I was thinking about my marriages and the way people treated me and the abuse and the violence and all these sort of things. And I thought, wait a minute, I made shit choices, right? Now, I'm not saying that I deserved somebody to come in and kick the shit out of me every night and do other things, right? I didn't. But at the end of the day, I chose to let that person in my life, right? Mm-hmm. So I started working that back and saying, wait a minute, I'm responsible for my life. Things happened because of poor decisions that I made. So from now on, I'm going to be responsible for me. I'm not going to blame anybody else. I'm responsible and I'm going to make the life I want. And I think you're absolutely right. That is hitting the nail on the head. So well done, Stephen. Now you can tell your story.
It's so true, though, and it's something that's really at the forefront of my mind right now because, as you know, I've been doing a lot of writing for the book, and I'm kind of, I think I'm halfway through it. I think that in the next couple of weeks I'm going to get the most of it done. But the part that I've been speaking about the last couple of weeks, or the last week or so in the book, is all about how I formed my old business with a friend, and then how that didn't work out. And I was in that whole mentality of, what did I do wrong? And, you know, it's all their fault and blah, blah, blah. And actually, that whole writing process was actually part of the healing as well, because, you know, I could actually properly just let it go. And I feel like this huge big weight's been lifted off me this week, because I honestly thought that I dealt with a lot of the stuff, but when I was writing it, I was laughing, I was crying, there was this roller coaster of emotion going on there.
Do you know what, though? That's, to me, that is healing, because a lot of the things we do, we get old memories coming back and we push them away. Mm-hmm. But see, when we can actually let that memory roll, we can sit with it and let that memory come and memory go. That's healing. That's closing off that trauma cycle, things that have really traumatized us and upset us. Because at one time we wouldn't have been able to sit with that memory. We just couldn't. It would make us go, but the fact that you're letting that memory come, you're thinking about it, you're processing it, you're letting the emotions come up with it, that's healing. That's exactly what healing is.
It's interesting because as I was doing it when I'm writing, I always have music playing in the background, and it was quite like I like to listen to I like to listen to all different kinds of music, but when I'm writing, I like to listen to like indie, chilled, you know, like that kind of vibe.
Really.
I know,
you're entitled to like any music you want.
You're a rock chick, but I like to listen to that because it's just really soothing. And honestly, when those emotions were coming back up, I was remembering things and I was feeling emotions that I hadn't felt for a long time, and it really solidified like why I will never allow myself to get to that point ever again. You know, it was
lessons, yeah. So lessons we learn, Philly.
Yeah, it was phenomenal learning. You know, when you really look at it, and I've actually thanked all the people who were part of that and said, you know, like, I am so grateful for what you guys have shown me, because if you hadn't have shown me that, I probably wouldn't be the version that I am today.
Is that a bit of Ho'oponopono there, Stephen?
Yes. It was actually, because when I was doing it, I was very mindful of the fact that I have to go into my Ho'oponopono room and actually forgive. And you know what I seen? For anybody who's interested in Ho'oponopono, you're not getting to know unless you're part of our workshop. You can sign up for the next workshop in the next few weeks. I'm joking. But the whole going into that Ho'oponopono room, when I walked in, there was portrait pictures of all of these people who had ever, and I say all of these people, there was 4 or 5 who had ever caused me any kind of pain. You froze on me again. But there was these people, anyway, who had caused me pain. And they were all on the wall in the room.
You disappeared again.
I know, it's you, because I'm watching, I've got a live feed going on at the side of me, so it's definitely you.
How can that be? I'm not even on Wi-Fi. I'm connected actually directly into the internet.
Well, it's interesting.
I didn't use Wi-Fi in my office because it's not stable. So I've actually got a wire that comes straight to the router into my laptop.
Me too.
So maybe it's a problem with my internet provider.
Yeah, maybe.
That's why I do that.
Did you hear what I said?
No, I didn't. I heard the portraits.
Yeah, so when I walked into the Ho'opono room, I seen the portraits of the people who had caused me pain during that time, and I just forgave them. And when I forgave them, the portraits just like fizzled away into nothing, and then there were just sand falling down the wall. How cool is that?
Well, I would say that remember and forgive yourself for feeling that way. Because remember, Ho'opono was all about yourself. So I forgive myself for feeling that bitterness. I didn't know any better. Do you know what? I love myself, and I think whatever it is you want to say, it's all internally. Because that's what we do, eh? When somebody really hurts us and disappoints us, and we carry that sort of bitterness and how dare they? That's what you're talking about. And it's the minute we let that go that we feel so much better. And that's what you're doing by letting these pictures just fizzle away, these portraits. You're actually freeing yourself up.
Mm-hmm. Because when people hurt us, it's not that they might not even have meant to hurt us. It's just that our expectation wasn't met. That's right, isn't it?
You know what, though? Even if somebody did mean to hurt us, the bottom line is, if somebody was really cruel to us and really wanted to hurt us, right, and we were angry and bitter, that anger and bitterness does nothing to them. They didn't even know about it. They didn't even feel it. It does nothing to them. They're not really enjoying life, no giving a shit, basically. And we're all twisted, narrowed, and angry and bitter. So actually, it's like drinking poison and hoping it kills the other person. But what we're actually doing is only killing ourselves.
Yeah.
So do you know what we're actually doing is hurting ourselves even more because somebody hurt us in the past. Best thing to do is let it go.
Yeah. I said that the other day we were speaking, and my mum used to have this thing she always used to say to me. She would say, Stephen, don't ever feel angry or jealous about how someone else has treated you. Because that's like drinking poison and expecting the other person, drinking bleach and expecting the other person to die. And it's so right.
Yes, it's true. Yes.
Because the only person that's really hurting is you, because you see that other person and they're fine and they're getting on with their life, or they appear to be anyway, and you're still holding on to that, and it's no good for anybody, is it?
I was really hurt by somebody in my 20s, and I met this person again about 4 years ago. So I hadn't seen them for over 35 years. I hadn't seen them for 35 years. But I only seen them for 5 minutes. And this person knew that for all these years I was embroiled with hatred for them. I mean, really, I couldn't even hear the mention of their name, or I'd be like, ah! And I actually said to this person, whether it meant anything to them or not, I didn't know, but I actually said to them, I want you to know that I forgive you. that it no longer affects my life, that I forgive you. Now, this person could have turned around and says to me, well, I don't fucking care anyway, Susan, right? But it was a difference that made for me to verbalise that and say, I forgive you. But he actually turned around and said, I've waited a long time to hear that, because now he can forgive himself. And for me, that was a really poignant moment. I mean, I'll never ever see this person again. I'll never have any contact with them. But it was like the biggest weight just coming off my whole body, just to not carry that inside me anymore. Whether it was relevant to him or not didn't matter. It was the fact that I was giving myself permission not to carry all this bitterness and anger and that inside me. And the difference that can make to your life, it's like almost switching a sunshine, if you like. That's really corny, but put like a light on in your life. Yes. Best gift anyone can do for themselves. Absolutely.
Yeah. Forgiveness really can change everything, no way. I remember having conversation with my granny. Now, my granny was, to me and my sister, just an amazing person. I absolutely loved her so much. But my mum hadn't had the same relationship with my granny in her childhood, because my granny was just really bad to my mum when she was little. My granny would beat my mum with chair legs and, drag her by the hair and just horrendous stuff. She was just an angry, bitter, horrible person when mum was growing up. And my mum held on to that for a lot of years. And I remember going to my granny's when I was little, and my mum always being really nervous. I always remember feeling my mum's energy, because again, always felt energy since I was a wee boy. But I always remember feeling my mum very nervous when she was sitting in my granny's presence when I was little. And I remember having conversation with my granny about it, and my granny saying, because I would chat to my granny for hours and hours, and my granny saying, if there's one thing that I could take back, was the way that I treated your mother. And I was like, have you told her that, Granny? And she was like, no, we've never spoke about it. And then my mum, speaking to my mum, because I'm that kid that asks all the bloody awkward questions, right? So I said to my mum, I was like, Mum, have you spoke to Granny about how she treated you? Because she wants to speak to you about it. Mum was like, I can't speak about it. So my mum was obviously so hurt. But then when my granny was dying, I would say the last 6 years of my granny's life, because we'd lost my granddad, my granny was on her own, my mum was looking after her all the time. My mum then started to, she loved her mum, but she then started to resent her because she was looking after her abuser. And it was a really, really difficult emotional time for my mum, because my mum was like, I wish she would just die. Which is really horrible to say. And my mum would, I'm maybe talking out of turn. My mum's maybe got to phone me and say, what did you say that for?
You know what though? I don't think anyone can judge anything unless you've actually, that old saying, unless you've walked in somebody's shoes and experienced their life, none of us have a right to judge.
Mm-hmm. Well, see my granny, and I have to say, she was a hard patient, right? She would be phoning my mum, oh, I feel unwell, I've got sore feet, and my mum would be like, I'll be around in a minute. And then my mum would go around, she'd be like, I need to hoover and I need to wash the bed in, and all this stuff. And she was, don't get me wrong, I love my granny, but she pissed my mum off, which is normal, it's understandable. But my mum was obviously looking after someone that she resented for the way that she treated her when she was young.
The mother-daughter relationship's never that easy. Well, very rarely that easy anyway. Mm-hmm. That it's a very windy journey, I think, the mother-daughter relationship.
But do you know, to get to the point, see, at the end of life, we were obviously standing next to my granny, sitting next to her, and we were holding her hand, me on one side, my mum on the other. And I said to my mum, I was like, Mum, you need to forgive her. You need to have that closure. You can't have her passing, and she needs that closure. So my mum, she leaned over and she said to my granny, she was like, Mum, I forgive you. And see, when she said that, you could see my granny just letting go. There was this, I know it sounds really strange, but there was something in her energy that just relaxed. And then,
Doesn't sound strange at all.
no, but my granny wasn't able to speak or talk or anything at the end. She was just lying there in this state. She was just breathing in and out. And when my mum said that, you know, Mum, I forgive you, there was this release, there was this relief. And I know my mum feels better as a result of it. You know, I don't think anybody can understand what my mum went through as a child. You know, my sister and I kind of felt a wee bit of like, Mum, why are you talking about her like that? You know, but I think forgiveness is the key for everything. You know, like we cannot hold on to things because it just makes us bitter.
And it is only a self-punishment. It doesn't do any harm to anyone else. And it really doesn't do anything to anybody else. It's just you that it ties in knots.
They spent 45 years feeling, my granny feeling regret and my mum feeling anger. That's
when I talk about forgiveness, I'm not necessarily talking about letting somebody off the hook. And I think that's important to say that.
Yeah.
It's letting go of that tightness, that cage that you carry inside you.
Mm-hmm.
By forgiving someone doesn't mean necessarily that you have to let somebody continue in your life or you're justifying somebody's actions. It just means you're letting that go. Does that make? I want to make that clear because some people might think that I'm talking about forgiveness. That that means, oh yeah, do you know, I've forgiven you. You can come back into my life and you can carry on doing what you're doing or whatever. That's not what it's about at all, is it?
Mm-hmm.
No. I'm sorry, I just wanted to get that in because some people are like, Susan, how can you say that you forgive somebody that's done such brutal things to you?
Yeah, you can't forgive the person's actions, but you can forgive your emotional attachment to it. You know, it's like you're like, I'm giving it back to you.
That's where the Ho'oponopono thing comes into it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I would, if I was doing Ho'oponopono on all that bitterness that I carried for 40 years or whatever inside me, I'd be saying to myself, Susan, I forgive you for all that anger, all that bitterness that you carried inside you because you just didn't know how to let it go, right? And I would say, Susan, I love you because now you have let that go, right? And now you can feel that pure love inside your body. So it's all about
forgiving yourself.
And that, do you know what that can, the Ho'oponopono, there's only 4 phrases. You can look it up on the internet. If you want to set yourself free for whatever unhelpful emotions and things that have happened in the past, that's something worth looking at. That you can use that for yourself, for self-healing. That's what it is, self-healing.
Lisa's commenting in there. She's saying, I don't know. I feel shit every day for not forgiving him, but I just can't bring myself to do it. It's horrible. And Lisa's partner passed away a couple of years ago. But he passed away in bed, and his little boy was lying next to him, or their little boy was lying next to him, and woke up and found his daddy dead next to him. So absolutely horrendous thing to go through.
Yeah. What I would say, Lisa, is it's partly not about forgiving him. It's partly about looking after yourself. Now, what you're talking about there, what Stephen's just explained a little bit, and there's a trauma there. That's quite a traumatic situation. You may, I'm not saying you do, but if it's really impacting your life, you may find it helpful to talk to somebody who can help you clear some of that trauma, close it. We're going back to the trauma cycle here. If you want to message me later, well, if you want to message me, we can chat about that. Because trauma is definitely one of the things that I work with, and I can help with that. But it's very much working together, because I just show you how and you make the changes. It's important to see that as well. But there is life after even the most horrendous traumas. There's happier and more peaceful life. So you can message me if you want to do that.
I think that's the thing, though. You know, when people are going for therapy, they have to do most of the work.
Yeah.
You know,
what I would do with something like that is I would probably use EMDR, which is eye movement therapy, as an initial place to start, because then it's not necessarily going into a lot of talking, but it's helping the mind close off that trauma cycle. I don't know if you've heard the eye movement therapy, but it doesn't have to be with me. I'm just saying that may be something that would be really helpful for you to look into.
EMDR is really good. You've done that with me as well. That's the torch, isn't it?
Yeah, I use a torch. Yeah, because I like the torch.
It's really good. I like that though. It scrambles your thinking, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's good. But there's a lot of different things that you can do that can be very helpful for people who've experienced trauma. I've got lots of different tools that are sort of tailored to what people, for each individual, to see what is best for them. But it's not like a magic wand. It takes two people. There's things that the person coming to see me has to do if they want to move forward with that as well.
Yeah. Lisa's saying she's definitely going to message you. Karen McNamara as well over on YouTube. She's watching us on YouTube, and she's saying that I've used Ho'oponopono over the years and find it brings great release and comfort.
That's great, Karen, because I know that it's helped me a lot as well. Definitely. So it's good to hear that it has helped you. It might encourage other people who feel like that to have a wee look at it and try it out.
It helps massively though, doesn't it? Because I think with Ho'oponopono, it's more about like forgiving yourself and forgiving. You know, it's a really beautiful way of working, isn't it? You know, the phrases. You know,
it's so gentle.
Yeah.
So gentle.
But it's so effective.
When I'm saying if I was saying the phrases, I would hold my hands on my heart, because that for my mind-body connection, both my hands on my heart area, I find it makes me feel very safe and calm, and it just brings me right in, gives me a sense of security very quickly. So when I'm seeing these words, because obviously you'd be thinking about the things that you are forgiving yourself for and thanking yourself for taking these actions. By doing that, there's a real mind-body connection there. Obviously, it's your heart center, it's your soul center as well, isn't it? So it's such an important point in your body.
So the Ho'oponopono, the Ho'opono prayer goes like this: I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you.
It doesn't have to be in any particular order, these 4 phrases, but it's always these 4 phrases.
Please forgive me, thank you, I love you. It's very touching, especially given how simple these universal words are. It's so true. You know, I found it just such a soft, gentle, kind energy, you know, when I was doing it.
Remember, your world can be your own world can be greatly impacted by a reflection of what you carry inside. Okay, so if you think that you're freeing up all that space and taking all that pain out of your body, it sounds really corny, but it's true. You'll actually find that your world becomes a more lovable, happy place as well. And it really does. if you feel better about yourself and feel happier in yourself, you start to see more happiness and more calm in the world. It starts to build up your confidence and self-esteem. You start to make better decisions in life. You have better relationships. It actually starts to change so much. It's like everyone just rolls and just connects.
Yeah. Karen's saying there, yes, it's hard to accept that you are the one bringing situations into your life. But once you realise this, you can forgive the whole situation and forgive yourself.
You're right, Karen. And you know what? You've hit the nail on the head there. Because it sounds like I'm saying it's really easy, but moving that mindset to acceptance can be really, really hard. But I'll tell you something, it took me a lot of years to move that, to see that what you're saying there is a truth. But it was the best thing I ever done. Without a doubt, my life changed the minute that I realised that I bring situations into my own life and I've got to be responsible. That was the key to freedom, actually. It was the key that opened the door for me. So thank you.
I feel really chilled speaking to you today, Susan. You're giving me some kind of relaxed energy.
I'm actually feeling in quite a good place today, actually. I've probably, it's the best I've felt for a week.
Normally you're a cabot wee witch, and the day you're nice and...
I can change that if you want. That's never far away.
So anybody who wants... Lisa's asking there... So it's Susan Watson, that is her name, and she is from Perfect Solutions Coaching. So go on and like her page. I thought we had your page up here. You've also got Susan's YouTube channel running across the bottom there. Lots of helpful videos, hints and tips. She also has a very helpful Facebook page called Healing a Broken Heart, which is a free resource where you can just go on and there's some really amazing hints and tips on how you can heal after trauma of any kind, really. Yes. But her main page is Perfect Solutions Coaching. So look it up, send her a wee message. I did think that we had it though, and we don't. No.
You can find me on Facebook.
Yeah.
The Facebook, I'm on all social media, everywhere, on Twitter, Instagram, everything, LinkedIn. But my main place is definitely Perfect Solutions Coaching on Facebook.
Yeah. Lisa, take a wee note of it, because honestly, I'm so busy today. I won't have a chance after the surgery. I'm jumping straight out. So take a wee note of it. Come off the live right now and write it into your phone. Text yourself at whatever, Perfect Solutions Coaching. Or what you can do is you can just rewind the video back to 43 seconds and 43 minutes, 33 seconds. And then you'll find the link there. Yeah.
I keep going away. Are you sure it's me? Is it?
Aye. It's definitely you.
I'm going to have to complain to my internet supplier. How dare you give me a duff internet?
Or you can... Susan's also on our Facebook page as well. You can... she's linked up to our Facebook page. There's links everywhere. Perfect Solutions Coaching. Easy peasy. Now I can't... Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see lots of messages flashing up.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lisa. She's wrote down she's going to message you today.
And I'll respond today. I'll pick it up today.
Ho'oponopono is a big life-changing thing, but I also wanted to talk to you about PS Tech as well when you're talking about Ho'oponopono, because that's something that you do that I think is so effective. I love PS Tech, and there's many people that hate it.
Because it's noise. You've got to move, you've got to think, you've got to concentrate.
Yeah. But see,
PS
Tech...
It's all about lying back and being quiet and just chilling. No, this takes action. PS Tech.
PS Tech
mind and body.
Completely helped me. That was so good, that therapy. And I think that anybody, if you were doing some work with Susan and she uses PS Tech with you, you might not like it at first, but I promise you'll like it afterwards because it just dials down the thinking. Pardon me, it dials down the thinking and the thoughts on whatever that thing is. It was really wonderful.
It breaks emotional, it changes emotions. Well, there's lots of different levels, but the first one is changing emotions. Then you can use PS Tech for changing beliefs. You can use it for changing habits. It can help with weight loss. It can help with sexual problems. It can help with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was me getting my sexual thing back in again.
So, do you guys have any questions for Susan? That my screen's gone mad today. I don't know what is wrong with this.
It's not me. I told you it wasn't me. It was you.
It's not me. I think it's the software. I'm going to have to message them and say to them that it's just no playing games. It's playing lots of games.
Right.
Doing that today.
We first started using it, it was great. But the last couple of times it's been a bit dodgy.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're still here. We're still on air. We're still talking. That's all that matters.
Exactly.
Has anyone else got any other questions or anything they'd like to ask? If not, that's okay.
Yeah, we'll just sit here like this.
Can you see my new oils along the top of my screen?
Yeah, your colour therapy oils.
Just thought I'd get that in. And my wee light behind there, that's for shining. It comes all different colours, and that one's just for shining light in the room. But the other one that I've got, that's the facial colours and skin things, I've given that somebody's had maybe trying that for me just now, so I've not got it in the office.
Mm-hmm. Lisa's asking me just to ask you this: will this help me with nightmares and checking my kids at night to make sure they're still breathing?
That all comes underneath as part of the working with the trauma and stuff. Mm-hmm. But there is actually a particular task that you can do to help with nightmares as well. I had nightmares for many years, every day actually, every night, even up to about 20 years ago. And I can remember my son would have been about 19, and I can remember knocking on his room door, asking if I can come in and sleep with him, because I woke up in such I used to wake up in such a panic. And I couldn't put the light out. I couldn't lie down. I'd be just so scared to be on my own. But he said no. I asked if I could sleep on the floor of his room, and he said no. So I had to sit up all night, terrified. I understand that most teenage boys, late teenage boys, wouldn't want their mum sleeping with them. I get that. So no, nightmares can be helped, but it's something that would be looked at as part of the whole healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
Your nightmares is your mind trying to clear trauma. So what happens is when our mind processes thoughts and experiences and emotions when we're sleeping, and what you tend to find if there's a trauma, your mind's working really hard. It's going over things, so that part of your sleep, you'll probably be exhausted all the time. I bet you feel really tired all the time because your body is using all this energy when you're sleeping as well. And that's what your nightmares are. Because what happens is so that says to me right away that, yeah, do you know what? I mean, I don't. Well, do you know what, Lisa? We'll talk privately about that. Mm-hmm. But it is part of the whole trauma cycle, yeah, without a doubt.
And do you know what, as well? Like, well done for being so public and speaking about it as well. That's something that, I think takes a lot of bravery as well.
I'll tell you something. Just with Stephen saying that, I know I'm butting in. Is actually speaking about it and being public about how you feel and what's going on as part of your healing process. Because what you're doing is acknowledging what you're feeling, but you're telling your story. And because you're telling your story and bringing it out, that's part of that process as well. Starts your healing. So it is well done.
There is honestly though, there is a light at the end of the tunnel with it. I've seen people, you know, I'll never ever forget. I was working with a lady maybe about 8 years ago, and she wanted a reading, and a reading was the last thing that she needed. She needed more. She needed counselling. She needed help. She needed support. So I'd put her in touch with the relevant people who could give her more support. I wish I'd known you back then, Susan. But she'd actually, horrifically, she was away in Italy with her family, and they were taking pictures, and she'd had her 9-month-old baby, and they were like taking the pictures, and you know these canal locks that you get that like they lock the canal and then they lift the boat up. She dropped her baby into the canal lock accidentally when they were taking family pictures, and she just couldn't get over it. She was absolutely traumatized by it. Of course she would be, you know. But she's managed to heal that, which is really, really good because I know her now. And she's managed to heal that. She obviously she still has the trauma of it, the upset of it, but she feels differently around it now. So, you know, with the right help, there is a way out of these things, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Definitely.
And do you find that when you're working with people as well, Susan, you see a big success rate in people that are, you know, have been through really traumatic events?
Yeah. I think it's like you're saying there that it's not like you wipe the slate clean, if that makes sense. What you experience is what you experienced, but it's very much that it's about changing that emotional reaction. Mm-hmm. So, for example, someone has had terrible trauma. That trauma will always be something that they're aware of because it happened in their life. But the point is they'll be able to think about it and not have this overwhelming emotion. They'll be able to sleep at night without terrible nightmares. Do you mean that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, there is a way out on the other side of it, but you know you're never going to be able to change the event. You just change how you feel about it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when people are working with you as well, Susan, is it, you know, is their success rate always about what they put into their own healing, or is it?
Yes. Just yes. I absolutely, the way I work is we work as a team. Mm-hmm. I have a part to play and they have a part to play, right? I have the part where I've had the training, the experience, I know what I'm looking for, I can see the emotions, I can help people make the changes. Help people make their changes. What I'm saying there is that every individual that comes in to see me is actually making the changes themselves. Because the changes happen internally. I can't put my hand in somebody's head or in their body and make these changes, but I can support them and help them on that journey.
And is that really uncomfortable for people when they're having to face these things?
The way I've got there's so many different ways that you can work, and it depends on the person. I mean, someone might want to come and do talking therapies, perhaps they've never actually really told their story. So it might start off that, it's not something I normally do, but we would do a couple of talking sessions. Get out and really explore people's emotions and thoughts. Because people need to acknowledge what they're feeling. They need to accept what they're feeling. And once they know what they're feeling, then do you know what? Let's clear it. And at that point, you don't really need to speak. You don't need to tell me. We can just connect with that emotion, and we can do things like EMDR, bilateral stimulations, ears, tappers, all different things. And let's start to change what's going on. It doesn't have to be difficult at all. There's different routes we can go down. We can go down where, do you know what, you don't even need to tell me your story at all. I don't even need to know anything that's happened. And we can work that way. Or if the person wants to speak and wants to tell it, then we can work that way. So there's different routes that we can take. It doesn't have to be painful. In fact, do you know what? I would say it wasn't painful. There might be emotional releases, there might be some tears, but to me, tears are good. Why would you want to keep your tears in? Let them out. It's cleansing, it's healing. Plus, our tears have stress reduction hormones in them, make us feel even better. It's a safe environment, this office. Absolutely safe, really comfortable, no pressure, no rush. We'll just work through what we have to do. I think I've told you that I've taken sort of time restrictions off my appointments.
Mm-hmm. And what happens?
Like that. Come in, have a wee cup of tea, a wee cup of coffee, no rush, no hassle. Let's just get all the help you can get.
And what happens when someone's not ready to let go?
Then if I noticed that when they came to see me, I would just say, because I'm quite honest, I don't think this time is right for you. I said, because if you're not ready to let go, nobody can make you let go. You've got to be ready to move on. I mean, that is 100%. It has to be the right time for you. You have to be at the point where you're thinking, enough is enough. I need a change here. Yeah. But if you're still stuck in that blame, and you can't see a way out and you're not ready to let it go, then it's probably just not the right time for you to be working on it. But I have actually said to people, I think we should stop here. And I think you should go away and think about what we've been working on and see if you feel this is right for you and you're ready for this. So I have done that. I won't just work with somebody just for the sake of working with them. But they're not in that right place, so I'm quite happy to say that.
And if someone was really experiencing a lot of trauma going back to these things, would you equally stop the session then? Yeah.
If they were experiencing a lot of trauma, what do you mean? If they were reliving it? Yeah,
so if they were visibly very shaken and upset by it, would you stop that? No?
No. No, but what I would do is I'd be bringing to their senses a reminder that they're safe. They're in a safe place, bringing their attention to what's in the room, get them to notice what they can see in the room, to listen to my voice. So I would be doing certain things to soothe and calm. But you know what? In all the time that I've been doing this, I've never had anybody really go back into a trauma. I've never had that at all. Because every time I'm working with trauma, it's never putting people into it. I always just say, think it as if it's over there on the other side of the room. That experience is over there. And without even really going into it, just think of how it makes you feel. Because it's more the emotion I work with rather than the event. So the way I work is I don't really take people into it.
That's the cleaner in, sorry.
You're going to slap you.
She just hit me with her duster. You want to say hello, cleaner? No?
Hello, cleaner.
It's nice to see her working hard, doing her women's tasks.
Quiet.
Do you know it's nearly 25 too, Stephen?
Oh, is it? Oh my God. So it is. Sorry. Is that your cue saying, right, Stephen, you need to go now, bye?
No, I was just thinking that you only wanted to do it for an hour, and I know that in these subjects I can talk. So I thought I'd better pull it back in a bit in case I'm boring people to death.
Yeah, I would agree. You're boring people to death, so we're going to go now. We do need to go anyway because we are only on for an hour every morning.
I know.
But I think that what we've covered today, I think it's a fascinating subject, really moving into trauma and healing it and, feeling differently about it, and I think for anybody watching this today, it's probably been one of our most serious surgeries, actually.
I just thought so. I want to add one more thing in that's really important. Because a lot of people think I've not got a trauma because what happened to me isn't as bad as some of the stories that I've heard, right? So I've not really got a trauma because I've no right to feel like that because look what happened to them. Trauma isn't the situation. Trauma isn't the experience. Trauma is the internal impact on your body. Trauma is what you carry inside. It has absolutely nothing to do with the situation. It's when everything's been too fast, too much, too soon, and all our senses have just been overwhelmed and we can't process it. That's the trauma. Right. I just had to get that in case that's important to somebody watching it.
I think it's true what you're saying, though, because you cannot compare your trauma to anybody else's. So for me, someone throwing a ball of cotton wool at me is just as traumatic as someone having a gun pointed at someone else's head.
No, I don't believe that, because when I come and see you, I'm bringing a bag of cotton wool. I've promised you, Stephen, the first day back in the shop. The first day back in the shop, I am coming in with the biggest bag of cotton wool. And what did I say? I'll have it on your hands, I'll have it on your head, I'll have it on your neck, legs, and your face, and you will not care.
Right!
You won't care. You won't care, I promise you. And we'll do it on video live.
I honestly, I don't think how you're going to manage that. Honestly, I just don't think it's going to happen. But
well, are you ready to let it go, Stephen? Are you ready to let it go?
Aye, because I don't want to feel like that about cotton wool.
There you are. I'll bring the cotton wool in then.
Feel it in my teeth.
You can do it. You can do it.
But I think that's the thing, though. You know, like, you cannot compare yourself to anybody because, you know, like, genuinely, and I really seriously mean this. See, just sitting in a room with a ball of cotton wool, I would find very, very, very traumatic. It would really, really upset me, and I think for other people it could be a spider, or it could be, you know.
What I'll do is I'll work on you without the cotton wool, but around the cotton wool, and then after we've sort of got somewhere, then we'll bring the cotton wool into it. So by then you're sort of ready for it. But anyway, we better go. We better go.
Just call it the white stuff. In fact, didn't call it the white stuff. Call it the cloud-like material.
Right.
Yeah, we better go. But thank you so much, Susan. Monday morning, we will be back with you.
Yes.
And Monday morning, it's all about shits and giggles. So we're going to have a fun time on Monday morning. We're going to have lots of laughter. We're going to have lots of high, upbeat, great energy, because we'll have done our second part of the Sacred Depths Workshop.
Forgetting about that we've got that on Sunday.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
I did. I forgot.
I know. Could you imagine if I turned up? Hello, we're just waiting on Susan. She'd be like, "Oh my God, we've got that workshop." No, you wouldn't forget. Of course, you wouldn't forget. So yeah, take care, everybody. Thank you so much, Susan, and we will see you on Monday. No Soul Man surgeries on Saturdays and Sundays. Yes, days off. Long lives.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Strong.